Good afternoon. Today at headquarters, Detective Sergeant Brian Borg will provide an update on the investigation into homicide number 53 for 2013.
Good afternoon. I'm here to provide an update for Homicide 53 for 2013, which is the murder of a young man by the name of Nico Mitchell. On Sunday, November 24, 2013 at 8:11 in the evening, Nico Mitchell was shot multiple times outside of the North Kipling Community Centre at 2 Roundtree Road in Toronto, which is in 23 Division. Nico Mitchell was pronounced dead at the scene and had no chance of survival. Nico, like so many others that night, was at the community center to see a basketball tournament. Not very long after he arrived, Nico was sought out by others present at the tournament and was, for all intent and purposes, ambushed and killed execution style. Our investigation, which has been extensive and is still ongoing and is still active after 7 months, is by no means over. There have been, however, some significant developments, some of which I've already released, and some of which I'll release today. Firstly, back on January the 23rd of this year, I announced that there was a Canada-wide arrest warrant for the offense of first-degree murder that had been issued for an individual by the name of Roshane Hales Wilson, 23 years of age, of Mississauga, Ontario. Unfortunately, I'm disappointed, as are Nico's family, to say that Mr. Hales Wilson remains at large as a fugitive from justice and has not been arrested yet for this murder. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that wherever he is, he continues to pose a serious risk to the public and to the police. He is violent, most likely involved in criminal activity, and should be considered armed and dangerous. In addition, there is absolutely no doubt that Mr. Hales Wilson has and is being aided by others who know he is wanted for murder and who are assisting him in avoiding apprehension and prosecution. 3 days ago, on Monday, June 23rd, Tyrone Michael Knott, 28 years of age, of Toronto, was arrested by members of 23 Division and the Homicide Squad and was charged with the offense of accessory after the fact to murder for his role in assisting Mr. Roshane Hales Wilson in the immediate time period after the murder. He appeared the following morning at Metro North Courthouse at 2201 Finch Avenue West and was remanded and is next appearing on July the 14th at 10:30 in the morning. Today, in addition to the arrest of Mr. Knott, I'm announcing that there is an additional Canada-wide arrest warrant which was issued this morning for the arrest of Kashana Duncan, who you see here to my right, 28 years of Toronto, for the offense of accessory after the fact to murder. Once again, this charge relates to her role in assisting Mr. Hales Wilson in the immediate time period after Nico Mitchell's murder. Let me be very clear about this. This is serious. It's a serious criminal offense to assist or harbor someone who you know is wanted for any serious criminal offense and or who has committed a murder. Those who knowingly do this are placing themselves and their livelihoods at serious risk. I assure you, anyone found to be assisting Mr. Hales Wilson at any time after Nico Mitchell's murder, or found to be assisting Kashana Duncan now that they know she is wanted by police authorities, will be arrested, charged, and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Once again, I'm appealing to anyone who has information about this murder or who wishes to assist the police in locating these two wanted fugitives to contact the Toronto Police Service Homicide Unit at 416-808-7400 or wherever you are, your local police detachment. Again, if you're reluctant to call directly, I strongly encourage you to call Crime Stoppers. Remember that when you call Crime Stoppers, your identity remains anonymous, you never have to testify in court, and you are eligible for a cash reward for information you provide. Finally, and because this investigation remains as a fluid and active investigation, even after all this time, and involves a number of charged offenders who will be prosecuted, I'm not in a position to talk specifically about any of the details of the case. Questions?
Why do you say, I mean, terms of Mr. Hales Wilson likely involved in criminal activity, what makes you say that? Was he beforehand? Is it because he's got to be making money somehow?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. First of all, we know about his background beforehand. We also obviously have been conducting extensive investigations afterwards, and so we know, without getting into the specifics of it, that clearly, obviously, he has to live, he has to make money, and that's exactly how he's going to do it.
You think he's involved in the drug trade?
I would suggest he probably would be involved in any activity that's going to make him money, without getting into very specific details about it.
What you know that he was involved with before, like what his lifestyle was before the shooting?
Drugs and gangs.
What gangs?
Not going to get into specific details.
From the 23 Division community?
Not going to get any more specific than that.
Do you have any idea at this point whether he's in the GTA, whether he's even in Canada?
I'll put it to you this way. He could be in the Toronto area, he could be anywhere in Canada, or he could have fled abroad. We took great measures to try to apprehend him afterwards. I think we were very close to apprehending him. At this point, I'm not comfortable in saying that we know wherever he is. So I would, strongly encourage, you as the media, if you have sister affiliate stations anywhere in Canada, I think it's important that they all get this message as well. He could be anywhere in Canada, or he could have fled abroad at this point.
What's the relationship between he and this woman and he and Mr. Knott?
Associates, friends.
And why do you believe that they allegedly chose to help him?
I'm not going to get into those details, other than obviously we have evidence, including video surveillance, which is a very significant part of this investigation that obviously is very suggestive of why we believe that.
There were some, before this news conference started, there were some surveillance images up on the screen. Were those, is that part of this, or was that unrelated? Do you know?
It is part of it, but I just didn't think it was appropriate that they be involved in this. That was part of the investigation in order to identify specific individuals, including her and Mr. Knott and Mr. Wilson, and that's what those relate to.
Were those images of Mr. Knott then?
Yes, they were, yeah.
Okay. Can you say at all how you're alleging they helped him in the days after? Is it they gave him a place to stay, they were giving him food, they were lying to you guys?
That's all part of a court prosecution, so it's not something that I can get into.
And how are you sure that there's people helping him right now? Knowingly helping him, knowing that he's wanted on this warrant?
I know that there are people that are helping him for a variety of different reasons, and there's no way that he can be hiding on his own.
So describe his lifestyle. Do you think he's couch surfing, or does he have a regular established location where he's working from, or how would you?
Now?
Yeah.
As I said, I don't know where he is now. I can tell you that he is from the Toronto area. Went to school here in the Toronto area, but as I said, I mean, clearly he's got a reason to not be in the jurisdiction anymore. He's wanted here, and as a result of that, he's moved on, and I suspect he's probably somewhere else, continuing to do what he needs to do to survive.
You said you got close. How close? Can you describe him?
I'm not going to get into the specific details of that.
What's close?
Well, obviously close isn't close enough to catch him, but close enough that we thought we had a trail on him at one point, but obviously it didn't go beyond that.
Does Hales Wilson have any sort of status in the community? There's a gangster or whatever that so many people would allegedly be wanting to help him, when you think that he'd be bringing a lot of heat down on them, wanted on a murder charge, but they're risking their own futures allegedly.
I can't answer that question. I can tell you that we do know that people have assisted him, knowing that he is wanted for murder. I can't get into the specific details of why they'd want to do that, other than we know that he was being assisted for a period of time.
Remind us, what would the punishment be, or what could the repercussions be should you be charged with accessory after the fact to murder? Some people may see it as a petty charge that may just disappear once you get into the courts. Tell these people out there who are maybe harboring him.
It carries the same sentence as murder, right? So it can carry up to a life sentence. It's very severe, obviously.
Is it,
Do you think he's still armed?
I don't know. But I certainly wouldn't take the chance that he wasn't armed.
Was it only surveillance video that was used, or did you get a number of tips that came in as well from public and from people?
This has been a very broad-based investigation. It involves a lot of different kinds of evidence. I mean, clearly the cameras that were at the community center that night have been extremely helpful to us, but I wouldn't say that it's all specifically related to that. And I think that's an important point, because people honestly believe that when the police have video surveillance, then you don't need witnesses, and that's obviously not the case in these kinds of investigations. Witnesses are important. So again, you know, I would encourage, if anybody knows about this event who hasn't come forward, to do that.
Why do you think Mitchell was killed?
I'm not prepared to say why I think Mr. Mitchell was killed, other than I will say that there is no evidence to suggest that Mr. Mitchell had done anything before that night or on that night that contributed to his death. We're just dealing with very vicious people here.
Think they got the wrong guy, or they took something out of context, or
No, they got the right guy, for sure.
what?
No buts.
Yeah, if he hadn't done anything wrong,
Exactly.
how do you make sense of it?
I don't.
So killed for no reason at all?
No, killed for a reason, but one that I'm not going to get into here.
One that people would see as very petty, is that what you're saying?
One that I think people would be alarmed about. Okay, any other questions?
The suspect here, sorry, can you just get, I know you've gone into the main key suspect, but she's wanted a Canada-wide warrant, and describe her patterns or whatever information you can give us on her. She raised in Toronto also?
She lives in Toronto. She has family in the Toronto area, and that's really all I can tell you at this point. You know, she's a 28-year-old female who was associated with Mr. Wilson and with Mr. Knott, and for whatever reason, she found herself there at the community center that night with them.
You contacted her family, obviously?
Yes, I have.
Nothing?
Well, they're like I am. You know, I think her family would like to see her turn herself into the police. You know, to deal with the consequences of this, and obviously to receive a fair trial. But at this point, for whatever reason, although she was asked to surrender herself, she's chosen not to do that. And as a result of that, we're compelled to take a warrant out for her arrest at this point.
Do you think that both of them run together?
No, I don't.
How was she asked to surrender herself? Through her family, or?
Through her lawyer. Yeah. Okay?
Did her lawyer have contact with her? Do you know?
That's quite, yeah, I mean, that's,
Contacted the lawyer, so
I've contacted the lawyer. The lawyer apparently has spoken with her, or at least I hope that he has spoken with her. And obviously, for whatever the reason, she's chosen not to turn herself into the police. Okay, thank you.
That concludes today's conference.